let's take a step back and think about, with all of these happenings in 2020, how does it actually change our worldview, our values, and our belief? Because the core essence of any good story, it's about connecting to people, being able to embed information that connects with the values, the belief, and their perspective of the world. So if people's perspective of the world or how they make decisions were to change, then of course we have to change the way we tell stories, right? So think about it. How do people perceive information right now? Okay, I'm going to pause for like 10 seconds. How do you think people perceive information right now? Have you realized that the way you communicate with your superior, with your colleagues, have taken a slight shift, slight turn? Maybe last time it works, now it doesn't work. Okay, so let it sit for a while and try to reflect. And storytelling, it's not so much of like, oh, telling stories to put your kids to sleep, or telling a grandmother's story, right? But when we say story, we are being very specific of how we strategically use storytelling principles in order to guide people's decision-making process so that we get them to the end goal, which is usually a win-win situation. And of course, you see that a lot in speeches during elections. That's usually how politicians communicate, right? Or when we look at the news, there are only certain things that relate to us. Not all of the articles would relate to us or capture our attention. So if you recall all of those things that you remember, what makes them so memorable? And there are actually three different things I want to talk about under this particular storytelling component. In the future, right, for stories to work, they have to be grounded in facts. A lot of people think that storytelling is something that's very emotionally driven. Like, wow, I have to inspire, I have to tell them something that is very aspirational, right? But no, actually, it has to be grounded in facts because, number one, you realize that people are becoming more and more skeptical. In fact, you and me also just like, how do we know whatever we are seeing or listening is true? Don't just take fake news, right? Let's take a look at WhatsApp. Last year, so many scam messages, that I've received. Some of my friends, their WhatsApp group their WhatsApp account has been taken over by hackers because it looks very, very legit, right? Looks like a real message from the company or from a friend who requested like this security code. So people become more skeptical. Then also there are a lot of rumors floating around, conspiracy theory, and you really do not know what to believe anymore. And sometimes I even question myself, how sure am I that what I believe is correct? So no longer would I say, okay, wow, Yue is very charismatic, then I'll believe her. In fact, I would feel otherwise, right? If let's say Franson were to give a very inspiring speech, and I would say, yeah, he seems like a very charismatic person with the llama at the side. but I'm scared because the most charismatic person are also the most dangerous people. They can brainwash you, right? Or they can brainwash me. Then I have my guts up already. So how this affect how we tell story is that not only do we use storytelling principles in terms of inspiring people and connecting people on an emotional level, we also have to look at stories in a 360 degree to not hide anything, to let people feel assured that you have your palms open. You don't have a closed fist where some things you know and some things they don't know, because people might feel like you're taking advantage of the situation or of them. Okay. So in some of the workshops in the past, especially the data storytelling workshop, I often give this experiment. If I were to tell you that 87% of managers, 87% of managers make decision based on facts. And 87% of them would reject an idea if facts are not presented. I repeat, 87% of managers would reject an idea if facts are not presented. Do you think that this is true or false? Can you type in the chat, true or false? 87% of managers would reject an idea, true or false? You see, we have got a mixed bag of sentiments, right? Actually, many of you said true, some false, maybe because I said we should be skeptical. So interestingly, the information is not true. You know why? Because what are the sources, right? In fact, there's one source. And do you know what the source is? It's me, Koh Kai Sing. I just randomly pluck out a number. Oh, 87%. You know, odd number looks a bit or sounds a bit credible. So what do people usually believe in? People believe that, oh, we should make decision based on facts, right? Then I kind of put all both together, then boom, it sounds like something that is credible. So not just how we persuade the audience or how we communicate to our audience. This one also, as an audience member, we have to be very alert, especially when we are in the position of making decision. So don't just take numbers as credible information, because most of the time they are not. There's a sample size, you know, is it just a handful of people, maybe 10 managers, right? What industry are they in? Where are the sources? And then also, what constitutes rejecting an idea? What kind of idea, right? So you realize there are a lot of discrepancies in many different industries when it comes to data as well, because we humans are the ones interpreting the numbers. The numbers themselves don't mean anything. It is us humans that give the numbers meaning. So what this means is beyond story, making a story interesting is putting purpose and meaning behind a piece of information, right? So beyond that, again, we have to do the 360 to come from different points, try to scrutinize, and that's what our audience would do as well. Then the second thing that I observe is people are more risk averse. You know, with the economy being very volatile, right? I think people are more calculative. They're more price sensitive as well. For those of you in the position where you're doing sales or you're trying to get partnership, right? Trying to get sponsorship or endorsement. Even social enterprises, if you're trying to get funds, now people are actually more risk averse, or they might be a little bit more calculative in a sense where they care more now about the ROI, the return on investment. So my friend was sharing this with me that social enterprises, because he actually runs a social enterprise in Australia. And in the past, when he pitched to investors, it's pretty easy because people buy into the whole ambition and the idea of helping the needy, right? But right now, investors are very cautious. The first few things they ask is, how do you ensure that this business model is sustainable? How much, how long do you need? How many years do you need in order for you to start seeing returns? So they're not like angels where they just throw the money in the air and say, oh, you take my money and do whatever good cause that you want to do. Actually, that we want to make sure that this is sustainable, that this is profitable and scalable. So because people are more risk averse in our narrative, when we pitch to people, we also have to make them feel assured that number one, you're credible with all the facts, of course, with a different perspective, right? Facts, as well as your track record or your plan. So remember how if we can preempt what people would say no during our presentation, what they would say no to, then becomes a lot easier for us to overcome all this objection with very solid counter arguments. All right. So it can be very clear roadmap, implementation plan, or benchmark success factors, like have people done it in the past before? Hence, we will be also able to do it. Okay. So because people are more risk averse, you have to really make them feel assured. And then very lastly, I believe many of you have heard of this book, Essentialism, right? Or minimalism. Essentialism, I think, is an evolution of minimalism. So budget's tight, right? And then they have to really prioritize, especially so many things moving, like fighting fires every day. People's priorities are constantly changing. So if you want to pitch an idea, what makes you so sure that your idea would fall under their top priority list? People would ask, do I really need this? Is this really important? Does it really matter to me? So all in all of these stories have to be grounded in facts because people are more skeptical, risk averse, as well as more essentialistic. This is a term that I don't think it's in the dictionary. Yeah. So if we were to use hard facts from multiple perspectives to kind of support our points together with the emotional connection, then some people would call this the Tao of storytelling or the Tao of presentation, where you have both stories as well as facts blended together in a very balanced form.